Donnie B, GotDaBeats.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the next and latest edition of The Beat. I'm Donnie B, got the beats. We live on the beat, so you know what time it is. Thank y'all again for joining me on this long journey. My COVID pivoted is still pivoting. Please believe it. But tonight's guest, I guarantee y'all, as always, I bring y'all the top flight talent. Y'all really gonna enjoy it. And stay tuned. But you know what time it is. It's time for that glorious intro, y'all. Here we go. So y'all know I get around, like I always say, man, I get around and I know a lot of people and I'm always constantly moving and shaking and being introduced to new people. This brother, I met him on my travels and we sparked it off immediately, had a nice little connection and I thought this brother was really, really deep and he had a gravity to him. And I always look for celebrities. I feel that the thing about celebrities is that you have to have a gravity. It's not something that you can quantify. It's just something about that person. It's an energy, and this brother had nothing but gravity. And I was like, you know what? I gotta have you on your show. So I had to beg him to get on the show. But I guarantee you're gonna like him and you're gonna love him to death. And Timothy, please correct me if I got this wrong. But tonight, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome. He's an actor. He's an author. He's a writer. He's an entrepreneur. We got Timothy Harun. It's Harun, right?
Harun, but it's all good.
Harun. My apologies. I should have asked that off the top. See, that's what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen. My apologies, but Timothy Harun, we got it. So welcome to the show, brother. Welcome.
Pleasure to be here, man. Thank you for having me. It's really a blessing to, stand here before you and really just talk about life in the industry and what's been going on out here. Thanks for having me.
That's what's up, man. Like I said, it's a pleasure to have you, and everything about the glorious intro was real. So everything I said, I meant it, man. Seriously, it's my privilege to have you on the show to share your story. So thank you.
Wonderful.
So Timothy, let's go with the number one question on the beat, and I do this with everybody, but this is one of the more interesting questions out of everybody. I want you to tell everybody out there just who is Timothy Harun.
Yeah, so Timothy Harun is a writer, first and foremost, a journalist, an actor, and model from Maryland, from the East Coast. I moved out to California about 7 years ago. Originally moved to Oakland, lived there for a few years, and then I moved to Los Angeles, where I've been ever since. And, I'm a child of God as well, and, that's something that I take very seriously, and I try to do my best to incorporate my faith into my work in any way that I can.
First of all, you didn't stutter, you didn't mumble, you eloquently put everything out, brother. That's a blessing, man. Again, that's that gravity, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you, this guy is awesome. So Timothy, with that being said, what part of LA you from, man? Come on now, you got to put on for the city, man. What part
of? So check it. I'm from Baltimore County, right?
Okay.
I'm from a town. Technically, my town is called Rosedale.
Okay.
But not a lot of people are familiar with Rosedale. So we call it White Marsh, right? And I know that a lot of people don't consider it to be part of the DMV. They don't consider Baltimore to be part of the DMV. So my Baltimore friends going to be on my head for saying that Baltimore and Baltimore County are part of the DMV. But I feel like Baltimore and Baltimore County are a part of the DMV. So I'm saying I'm Timothy Harun from Baltimore County, the DMV. That's where I'm from. That's what I'm repping.
Well, I got you on the show. You from the DMV, as far as I'm concerned, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all can take it up with me later, you know what I'm saying? But it's good to have another a DMV and Maryland person on my podcast, man. I try to represent and I try to let people know the complexity of Wakanda, man, because Wakanda is a real place. In the United States, it's in Maryland.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know, so that's what that is, man. So thanks again for sharing. Now, Timothy, more about where you grew up. What was it like for you growing up there? And I know you said you spent time in Oakland as well. But as far as being, being in the culture, in the shadow of Baltimore and DC, and shoot, by way Philly too, you know what I mean? Because you're not that far up in Philly as well. So, what was that like for you growing up? Just explain your travels with that and how you overcame all of that to become the success that you are today.
Yeah, for sure. So, I grew up in a very rural area of Baltimore. So I'm from the suburbs. And it's pretty boring, really. But I think that's what my parents wanted. That's what they desired for us, a boring life, so that we could, stay out of trouble, stay out of harm's way. And my parents are from New York. My mom is from Brooklyn, and my dad is from Westchester. So I spent a lot of time in New York growing up, Brooklyn, and I lived in New York for a summer and a winter. I interned up there, and growing up as a kid, I used to just look out the back window of the kitchen and just think to myself, man, like I'm blessed to be here, and I'm blessed to have parents that care about me and put me in this position, but I do not want to live here anymore. So I would just daydream about California, and the way I dressed, people would assume that I was from California. So California, ever since I was a teenager, is something that had always been on my heart. And it wasn't until that I got into my 20s that it was something that I was able to make manifest by just coming out here and taking a risk, a chance on myself. And, it's starting to pay off. All praise due to God.
Awesome. That's awesome. It's interesting. We share that thread because I was born and raised in Washington D.C., but my parents were from Philadelphia, just outside of Philly, in a small place in South Jersey called Lawnside, and Atco, West Atco, I should say. Shout out to South Jersey. But even growing up and being born and raised in DC, I can't tell you how many fisticuffs I got into because people were just like, "Yo, you're not from here." You know what I mean? And they're like, "Yo, I was born here. I'll show you my birth certificate." But that's awesome. Was there a particular influence that you'd say that made you really gravitate towards coming to LA, or was there something specific, or was it just like you always just knew it was just LA? Like,
it was something that I always wanted since I was a teenager. I didn't know exactly how I would make it happen. When people ask me what my influence was to get into acting, they laugh when I tell them it's Little Romeo. They're like, "What are you like, Little Romeo? Like, what are you talking about?" But and no diss to Little Romeo. We respect Romeo and Master P for what they've done for the culture, and what they've showed as a strong black family unit. But when I was 11, I remember he was on the cover of The Source. He was on the cover of either The Source or some magazine with some Vince Carter's on. This is when Vince Carter was wearing the shocks, the shocks. And he was wearing some Vince Carter's, and he had a Vince Carter jersey on. And I think this is right after he dropped the joint with Michael Jackson, the remix, "Give Me One More Chance." He had Michael Jackson in the music video. And I remember going to my mom and being like, I was 11 at the time. I remember going to my mom and be like, "Yeah, I want to be an actor." And she was like, and I showed her the magazine. I was like, "I want to do what he's doing." So I showed her the magazine. I was like, "Yeah, I want to be an actor." And she was like, "All right, cool." Because to her, it was just bizarre. Like, she didn't know who Romeo was. So, but she didn't discourage me. She just took it as like, "Okay, cool. Like, that's what you want to do. Respect." So that was the impetus. And then I'd say like the spark point, like for me as an adult, coming out here would be I was working in the journalism field. I was freelancing for a website, and I got to the point where I had an interview. I had an interview for this really popular online news journal to be an editor, and I felt like I invested a lot of. Oh wow, my camera's falling. Sorry about that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Technical difficulties. So I had an interview and I didn't get it. I didn't get the job, and that was very discouraging for me. But it made me feel like, okay, I need to go all the way in terms of what I really want, and I need to make manifest my true desires and my true mission and my true goals. So essentially, what I did was I said, "F it." Like, if I can either keep trying to uh, be accepted by these journalism companies, or I can just double down on what's inside me. And what's inside me was acting and modeling and screenwriting. And I knew that in order to make that happen, I'd have to move to California. So that's what I did.
Awesome. Awesome. We're going to get to that in a second because anybody who traverses the country in the magnitude of what you did, it's a story, it's a process. It's not simple. You know what I mean? And those that have never done it, you have no idea how difficult a process that is. But we're gonna get to that in a sec. I definitely and again we identify with that. I think my first time. Now I'll show you my age, right? 1977. Hello. I looked up and when I was a kid, and my parents used to like. My dad was a huge movie dude. Like he used to always like he had like a wall full of VHS and beta tapes. That should tell you how old I am. And Breaking was one of my favorite movies of all time. And I just remember the beach scene where they was out there and they was partying, and you know what I'm saying, at the beach. And little known fact, Jean-Claude Van Damme was in the back in that beach scene. People don't know that, but if you go back and guarantee you watch that movie, and he was back there getting it. But it was just something about that whole culture, that feel, that energy. It was electric. I was like, that is so cool. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder where that was. So that was my first time I was tuned to it. And then growing up into high school and then listening to NWA and all of the Dr. Dre and I was just like, you know what? I want to be able to retire in the West. I want to do everything I can in the East, but I want to retire in the West. And it wasn't until I started working as a recording artist, and I was trying to push my brand, and I got an opportunity to perform. My first time performing in LA was at a mansion in the hills, and it was sponsored by Victoria's Secret. And
wow.
Yeah, it was like, and that was my first time touching down. I ain't never been to LA, but imagine you in a mansion with models, and women half naked, and people performing, and you know what I mean. And it's just like I was just like, this is a dream, bro. And this was like 2006, 2007, maybe 2008, but the Nets band. And I was just like, I want to come out here now. And my manager was like, nah, you know what I'm saying? My business partner at the time was like, nah, like we got to put on for our town, our city. And so I chose to go back. And plus I had my kids, my two little girls. And I was just like, I'm just not ready at this point in time. And it crushed me. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to get here. And then, 2015, I was just like, Operation Bye Bye DMV. I put it up because I hit my limit. And then 2015 hit. And two months later, after I put that hashtag up on my Facebook page, I was out. I was in LA.
Wow. Yeah, that takes strength, man. That takes courage.
People don't understand. Yeah. So going back to you, what was that process like for you to traverse the country like that? Like, again, like I said, it's a very difficult task to do. What was that like?
I'd say it it was depressing.
Mm.
It was depressing because I didn't. I had a cousin. Who lived in the Oakland area, who's my dad's age, so like in her 60s. Not to give their age away, nothing like that. But yes, I had a cousin who was my dad's age. But other than that, I didn't have any family. I don't have any family in California.
Mm.
So it was. I really. It's interesting because the personality that I had with my friends in Maryland and with my friends at college, and I got some college stuff to talk to you about. But the
Okay.
personality that I had with those people, like that internal group, I
Yeah.
had to bring that to the West Coast, meaning I couldn't be introverted out here because otherwise I wouldn't be able to survive. I wouldn't be able to meet people. And there's a huge part of me as like extroverted as I am, there's a huge part of me that's very much introverted and to myself and really doesn't really like to talk much. But that personality, I couldn't even for years I couldn't really even dive into that because my ability to exist out here was based on, okay, well, who are you meeting? Who knows you? Do you have any friends? And luckily I was able to make a few friends out here that really put me onto a lot of things spiritually and mentally. Shout out to Tahir, shout out to Hisham, and they really put me onto a lot of things. But I had to acquire that. I had to acquire those friendships, and at an age where most people have all their friends for life. So it was very challenging, and there's still challenges that I face, you know, that I face to this day. But um, I like to think I'm working through those challenges and overcoming those challenges. But it was dark. It was dark for real.
How do you feel that you overcame that darkness? I mean, because obviously you're still here and obviously you're thriving. So, what can you describe your process for how you were able to pull yourself up out of that darkness in order to continue?
I wish I could attribute it to some great fortitude that I have or some great strength that I have. But the truth is, man, I was I was in a really dark place and I read the Quran, you know,
Mm.
and the Quran was my blanket, so to speak, when I felt like I didn't have any protection. And it really spoke to me in a way. One of the phrases that's repeated over and over again is Islam is for those who believe in the unseen. And I've gone through many stages of my life. I was raised in a Baptist church, Black Baptist church, for all singing and dancing and people passing out, all the extra stuff. But shout out to my church. But a lot of that stuff didn't resonate with me. And as I got older, I really went down a path of just lacking faith and lacking the belief that I had an inherent purpose in life to live out. So I went through a good amount of life, like years in my 20s, not believing. But once I picked up the Quran, it really lifted my spirit. Over time, it wasn't didn't happen the next day, but I'd say over several months, my spirit became lifted and I became more of a self-actualized individual, and I developed more confidence in myself, and I was able to pull myself up out of that depression,
Right. Right. I mean, anytime. Well, first of all, mental health and awareness of mental health is a real thing, ladies and gentlemen. So you have to understand that's something that I would quantify at least 90% of the world deals with, and it's a real thing. Um, and I champion you, brother, for understanding, the place that you were in and finding the grit to, you know, keep pioneering and keep moving forward. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously you're in a lot better, better place, dare I say. But I think that's it's great, especially for you to be able to tell this kind of story, so that people could see that that you're still pushing. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people
Absolutely.
who don't keep pushing, unfortunately. And may they rest in peace and bless their souls. But you know, I champion you for continuing to keep pining at it, keep pushing at it, because it's necessary. And honestly, the only way out is through. And that's
Yeah, that's what I realized.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, there's no way. There's no way around. There's no way around your problems. You gotta work through them, and yeah, for sure. Thank you for being such a great supporter and really great listener, and taking a genuine interest in my story, because I meet a lot of people in this industry, and you know how it goes. It's a
yeah,
lot of, oh yeah, man, I rock with you, I rock with you, and then maybe they do, maybe they don't, but to be able to talk to someone who's from the same place I'm from, and actually live out that connection and link up through your platform, it's definitely a blessing, and I'm really appreciative.
yeah, definitely. And I appreciate you, man. And so with that being said, I want to take this first opportunity for people to get an example of your work. I actually have one of the commercials that you were actually in. And I want to play it. We're gonna talk about it a little bit, and then we're gonna get back to your story. So
Yeah, for sure.
we have your commercial. The first commercial is the Million Roses, and this one I think is called Summer Love.
Hmm.
Something
Yeah, you
something.
got it. Yeah, summer
And
love. Yeah.
yeah, so I want you to talk about that as soon as we get back. But ladies and gentlemen, all right, we have Timothy Harun and Summer Love by the Million Roses. Check this out.
We could drive along an ocean reflecting the sun, or make a bed of green atop a wide open scene. Under a canvas of blue, I would draw ever nearer to you, to feel the dew on your skin. That is how it would begin. For summer is for falling in love. We could stay out late until the sun sets past 8, and the cotton candy haze mirrors the warmth of your gaze. Raise your glass to mine, and as we drink, we would lock eyes, so we could disregard the thought of ever having to part. For summer is for falling in love.
Yes, sir. Summer Love, the Million Roses, featuring Timothy Harun, today's guest. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe and follow Timothy Harun on social media. We're gonna put that up shortly. You can find him on Instagram at Timothy Harun 35. Make sure that y'all like, subscribe, follow this gentleman here, and support this brother, man. We gotta support the brothers and sisters out here, man. We quick to support the Kendrick Lamar album, and you support all of these people out there that you don't know. Why don't you try supporting people that you do know? Okay, you know him here because he's on the beat. So make sure you check him out. Make sure you like and subscribe and follow. Also, comment in the comment section. Let them know that you're here. You also can comment to him in the chat. Let them know that you're here. You know what I mean? And if you got any questions, feel free to comment. And if we got time, I definitely will shoot them at 10. So again, Timothy, thank you again for sharing, your hardships and so forth and so on. Before we get to that, the summer of love commercial that we just played. How
Hmm.
how do you feel watching back? looking back at it as an accomplishment of yours, how does that make you feel? A. B. What was your experience once it was released? Because obviously, you know, there has to be things topically that you talk about outside of the production, but let's just talk about it. You just talk about it. You a brother with a non-sister in it. Did you get back from that, or were people genuinely supportive? You know what I mean? And then C, just how did it all come together? And please shout out the production crew and your co-star and so forth and so on.
Yeah, shout out to the team that put that together. The way that came, a lot of questions, but definitely I got all answers for you. So the way that came about is that I was out at a club in Hollywood, and I was talking to someone about the film project that I'm working on, that I've been working on for the last 9 months. It's 9 months now. And I was talking to someone about that, and they're from another country, and they asked me about the Cannes Film Festival, and they said, well, hey, my sister's a director, so would you like to meet my sister? I'm like, sure. So they introduced me to their sister, and the sister was like, hey, you know, you have a nice look, I would cast you in something, blah, 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 here's my information. So we took down each other's information. Now, as you know, in Hollywood, a lot of those interactions are common. Like, you meet someone, they're like, hey, I'd love to work with you. It's like, all right, yeah, sure you would. Great. Yeah. But, you know, not too long after that, the director herself posted something to Instagram about looking for models for an advertisement. I DM'd her, and she was like, hey, you're perfect. This is when we're shooting. So we shot that, I want to say in May or June. And, you know, I had a good time working on the project. Wasn't sure what to expect, but I had a great time. Now, your other question, you said, did I get kickback being that it was a white woman in the advertisement?
Yeah. Not
that I recall. I'm sure I got some jokes from my friends in my group chat. Shout out to the group chat. But I'm sure I got some jokes, but any like severe criticism, nothing like that. I think people understand that this is entertainment, and in entertainment, that is an aesthetic that is not highly promoted, but it's trending upwards. So that's an aesthetic that is being used to sell products, advertisements, commercials, movies, and things of that nature. So I think, you know, most of the people I'm around realize it's part of the game.
Indeed. So, shout out, first of all, shout out to the progression. You know what I mean? Because we're in a progressive society, and you know, I dare I say 10 years ago at least, that things like that could have been challenged. But I think that was an amazing video, commercial, excuse me. And the chemistry, on-screen chemistry, it looked very solid. You know what I mean? I would have thought y'all were actually a couple in that, to be quite fair. So shout out, kudos. And to hear, especially to hear that you, like you said, you have a group chat and you have friends that are supportive, and you didn't get it. You know what I mean? Especially being DMV, because you know DMV people, you know, we let the cat out the bag ferociously. Like,
I ain't get that work.
What word? Ferociously?
I didn't get that work. They didn't give me that work.
Good.
They didn't give me that work. Yeah.
You know what time it is, boy.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Like, bruh, what's going on?
What's going on? What is this about?
Yeah.
What is this about? But yeah, shout out to Kat for putting that together, and you know, being someone similar to you that's like, hey, I like what you're on, I'd like to work with you, and then, you know, later on that actually happens, you know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Like I said, everything I stand by everything I said. That was a great production. It looks great. It make me want to go get a million roses right now. You know? But I can definitely see why you would be cast in something, and I can see why your co-star would be cast in something based off of that. So, anyway, kudos to you. I want to get back to your story. Now, you topically discussed it, but I want to talk about how you actually got into writing and journalism. How did you actually get into it? Like, what was that
So
like?
I was doing some research on you because I went, okay, I'm going on this show. Let me see who else he had on here. I'm watching one of your shows and and I just fast forward to a part and I hear James Hall. And I'm like, James Hall? That's why it's only one James Hall. I'm watching the rest of the interview. I'm like, oh, he went to Summer Bridge. That's crazy. I went to pre-college. So I mean, the connection was deep. Clearly, we didn't even get to that when we met. We had no idea that we are both alumni. I don't know if it's alumni or alumnus, but I'm sure
We
my
alumni.
HU people go. We alumni. Okay, we alumni of the Hampton University. So I mean, that's dope, man. That's really crazy. So that's something I just wanted to get off. But what was your question? I forgot your question.
No
I
worries,
was
no
so
worries.
excited to talk about the Hampton connection.
No worries. First of all, ahoy.
Oh,
You know,
journalism. How did I know I
exactly.
wanted to write? Yeah, I knew I wanted to write. I was probably like, I was pre-college. Talking to speaking of Summer Bridge, I did pre-college, and I was a junior in high school going into my senior year,
Mhm.
and I had written a paper for my African American Studies class, and the professor really liked my paper, and at the time, but he didn't give me a great grade. He did not give me a great grade. He gave me a very average grade, but he wrote some interesting notes on the paper. And my older brother was a student at the time, and I brought the paper to him. So he was there. He was a little older than me, but he was there at Hampton. I brought the paper to him and some of his friends, and they were like, "Yo, like this is crazy. Like like this is impressive." Along with the notes that the professor himself had written, and they had that same professor, and that professor is known for being very strict with the grades. He don't even like giving out B's type vibes. So I think at that point, and it was like a journalistic type vibe. So I think at that point at 16, I was like, okay, I can be competitive with my writing. And it was also a process of elimination. A lot of the other subjects I either wasn't good at or I wasn't interested in. So so for example, I was a 5-year MBA major for about a month.
Hampton does other people.
I was in there for like 3 weeks. I called my dad. I was like, man, I can't do this. I can't do this. I was like, I can't do this. So yeah, I think that was the impetus, definitely like 16. And then, like I said, I was 5-year MBA major for maybe 3 weeks. And then I went into pre-journalism. And yeah, I went into pre-journalism my freshman year, and then I became part of the school, the Scripps Howard School of Journalism during my sophomore year.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That does my heart so well to me. You the second Hamptonian that I talked to today, and we're just like, hey, like we didn't have a formal relationship, but it was just like, hey, by the way, and she happened to be in Ebony Fire, and I'm low down.
Crazy. Oh, you
So
low down. Oh, you lost. Wow.
yeah, so it was like, ooh, what's going on, sis? Like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah. So were you a drum major?
no, I wasn't a drum major. Trust me, I tried out though. I tried out
Okay.
and actually did wind up doing really damn good. But however,
Mm-hmm.
the complications that there was, I missed the Smartin team. They didn't
Sounds
pay,
good. It sounds good. Shout
But
out to my boys. I just gotta give a shout out to Terrell and Vince. They they were drum majors while I was at Hampton. They were older than me, but they really showed me how cool the band was. Like, I did not know the band was that cool. Like, I had no idea. Like, the band is the coolest part of Hampton. The band and Ebony Fire is the coolest part of Hampton. Like, don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
Do not get it twisted.
And when we were there, when I was there, it was a stretch for a good 5 to 6 years. We were untouchable. There was no other band better than us. Period.
Had to be.
So, and I'm sure the tradition continues because, a matter of fact, the band director right now, he came in my freshman year and he was a trombone player and I was a sousaphone player. So shout out to Thomas Jones and the HU marching force. You guys, Thomas is holding it down, man. He's killing it right now. So it is what it is. But thank you, fellow pirate alum. One question. You didn't happen to go walk across out the circle, did you?
I did, man. I was wild, man. I'm not gonna front like I wasn't. I couldn't really give myself over to the spooky stuff. It's too much spooky stuff going around, and I was one of them kids that if they said don't do something, I was gonna think about doing it. Now, whether or not I did it, I'm not gonna incriminate myself and tell on myself. But Hampton University was an interesting experience. I'm grateful I was there, but I'm also grateful that it's over.
Yeah.
Shout out to Hampton. Shout out to President Harvey. Shout out to the new president. I don't know his name, but
I don't know.
Hopefully he's doing his thing. Hopefully he's doing his thing. Yeah.
Well, the legacy lives on, man. The whole by the sea, the folklore lives on, man, and it lives on through people like Timothy Harun. Make sure you like and subscribe to Timothy Harun on all social media. Definitely on Instagram. You got the Instagram link down here, Timothy Harun 35. Make sure you like and subscribe and follow this glorious Hamptonian here. I want to take this time to do another break. We have the second commercial spot from the Million Roses, and we will play it now. Yes, sir. These are very, very good quality. So again, shout out to you with that. I want to ask you this. On to the next question. When did you discover your talents for acting? We already talked about the journalism side. We talked about the writing, but when did you really discover that acting was? And I know that you talked about the Little Romeo piece. Was there an actual switch that went off one day that you just rolled out of bed? It was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to do that.
So I studied journalism at Hampton.
Mm-hmm.
Broadcast journalism.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I studied journalism is because I was afraid to admit that I wanted to act. A lot of journalists are actors. They're actors. They're up there acting. And at that age, I wasn't really ready to admit that that's something that I wanted to do. But I did plays, so starting with my freshman year, like I was in 2 plays. I did some theater stuff my sophomore year as well. And by my junior year, I was more so transitioning into trying to act as if I was taking journalism super seriously. So doing internships and really trying to, walk around with the fresh cut and, tuck my shirt in and just try to look what I thought the role looked like. So I was acting the whole time, really, think about it. Like I was trying to act like I thought a journalist should act. But when did I know? I'd say, when did I know and when did I start pursuing it? I started pursuing it actively at Hampton University. I just didn't fully dive into it. I didn't look for a school that had a better acting program. I didn't say, okay, I didn't even enroll in Hampton's school of acting. You know what I mean? So, but 18, 19 is when I started physically, memorizing lines, doing plays, and it's been a fun ride. It's been a fun ride.
Awesome. Awesome. I want to ask in this whole process and then everything that you've shared from your days in White Marsh to Oakland to Hampton University to NYC to LA, who and or what were your biggest inspirations?
My biggest inspiration has to be my good friend who unfortunately passed on. He left us to go about another journey, and he passed 2015 on March 1st. And he happened to pass 6 weeks after I moved to California. So I had moved, we were talking through text, and this is around the time that J. Cole had dropped Forest Hills Drive 2014.
Yeah.
We were talking about that album and how it really inspired us. And Cole had done an interview on Combat Jack around the time, and he was saying some things that were very much ahead of his time. So we were talking about that in the Combat Jack interview with Cole. And then he was just expressing his desire to travel and live different places. And he was like, I'll catch you around. So he was speaking in a very spiritual, esoteric way. However, 6 months after I moved west, he got in a car accident. So he got in a car accident, and a lot of people, the term best friend gets thrown around a lot in society because people have their favorites, but this was really my brother. This is somebody that from the time I was a junior in high school, we were together every day, no matter what. Like it didn't matter. And he was always ahead of his time because one thing as Black men, we are often afraid to express ourselves emotionally out of a fear of being vulnerable. However, even at the age of 16, 17 years old, if he would drop me off at home, he'd be like, "Hey man, I love you." Like that'd be the last thing that he said, before our paths would be done crossing for the day. And that's something that I try to incorporate into my life. He's definitely my biggest inspiration. I'm still in touch with his family and his mother. His mother is very close to me. And that's something that I try to incorporate into my life when I go about meeting friends and really letting them know how I care about them, because you really never know when you're going to see somebody again, man. You really. Oh, and my other inspirations have to be, my mother. You know what I'm saying? That's just off top. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
That's off the bucks, as we like to say.
You're gonna get that phone call later.
Word. Well, I won't get a phone call, but yeah. It's okay. It's part of the cycle. It's the cycle. It's the cycle of life. You know what I mean? And that's that's something that I'm working to accept. So, my mother, my father, my brother, my sister's a huge inspiration, and my uncles, for sure. I have a cousin who's just super, 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 super brilliant. And he's really, giving me great advice. He's a neuroscientist. I had to put that out there. So I have a cousin who's a neuroscientist. But yeah, I got a great, my partner, what I'm saying? My partner has been a great inspiration for me, someone who's really, been with me and helped me process life over several years. So shout out to all those people. They've been a huge influence on me, a huge inspiration, and I wouldn't be here today being able to talk to you without those people involved in my life and supporting me the way the way that they have.
Well, I appreciate you sharing, and again, my apologies, for putting my foot in my mouth with that. So I understand that that's a very
It's all
tough
good, brother.
scenario. So, yeah, that's
It's all good, brother.
thank you, thank you. Um, what are you currently working on? What are your current aspirations?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked. And we talked about this when we met, and this was a huge part of our initial conversation. I am currently working on a TV pilot. It's a crime drama, and it's called Striking. That's the name of it. And this pilot is centered around an interaction with a young black male, about 20 years old, and a police officer who's also black. And unfortunately, the two of them have a disagreement, and an act of police brutality takes place. And it's a very vicious act of police brutality. And after this act takes place, the rest of the pilot is about the young man who was unfortunately severely beaten. It's about his older brother trying to figure out how this happened. The young man who's severely beaten is a college basketball player at a community college in LA, and the older brother is a high level drug dealer, a la Stringer Bell.
Hmm.
And the older brother knows that the younger brother is not in the streets. So he knows that there's really no reason for him to be in this position. And there are also no suspects. So there are zero suspects. And he knows for a fact that his brother has not done anything to warrant this type of treatment.
Right.
And they come from a very well-to-do family in Baldwin Hills. So the parents are very upset that something like this would happen. And they're also upset that their oldest son is a drug dealer. So they're essentially, blaming the older brother. But the rest of the pilot is about that older brother trying to figure out and if he does figure out how this happened and why it happened, then it becomes about retribution at that point. So it's a crime drama. We're going through several drafts. We've been writing for about 9 months now, and we're moving into the early phases of production in terms of fundraising and talking to people who would be interested in helping us get this project up and going and out into the universe. So anyone who's interested in contributing at any point, you can follow me on Instagram at timothyharun35. There will be an Indiegogo page that will allow you to contribute and help me bring this project to life. So yeah.
Awesome. Make sure you guys reach out. Make sure you like and subscribe and follow Timothy Harun anyway. But definitely make sure you do it to just support the project because that's important. Not sure if you recall, I dabble in screenwriting as well. I've had some stuff that has been pitched to major networks as well.
Nice.
Still in the process. Still in the process.
Sir, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you know how arduous that is. It's a thing. So definitely, he being Timothy Harun needs all of the help and support that one can
Absolutely.
have. I want to play this last spot, and then we can start to wind the interview down. Get one second. This last spot is from The Million Roses, and this is the third commercial from The Million Roses. Check this out, ladies and gentlemen. Man, I'm telling you, you're gonna make me get that. I'm gonna find some roses. I'm gonna have to purchase them. It's so touching and gripping, you know. Well, great.
They're eco-friendly. They're not real roses. They're actually bioengineered roses that last for years. They're
Well, damn.
genetically modified roses. They're not even real, but they last for years. So if you want to, you know, get your partner some roses that will last for years, it may be worth the investment. You know, maybe worth the investment.
Well, they're like some Jurassic Park roses. You know what I'm saying? Like it's nah, but definitely make sure you to like and follow and subscribe to Million Roses as well. Shout out to that team. Shout out to the production team that put it together. Shout out to Timothy Harun and his co-star. Shout out to everybody involved with that. And again, shout out to the entire team that is working on the striking project with Timothy Harun. Make sure that you like, subscribe, follow, and if you can assist, why not throw the assist, ladies and gentlemen? You can be a part of history. Who knows? This could be Abbott Elementary Part 2, except a drama. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know, and shout out to the Abbott Elementary crew and Quentin Brunson and the whole team for taking home the Golden Globe, multiple accolades and so forth and so on. It's an amazing show. Actually, a friend of mine, it's her cousin plays Mr. Clean, the janitor guy.
Janitor?
Yeah. And that's her older cousin. And so shout out.
So cool.
Yeah, I'm excited for her. I'm excited for their family. And he waited till he was like 65 plus in order to get up to land a role like that. So that's life changing. You know what I mean?
For real, patience.
Exactly. Perseverance and patience, man. Seriously. You know, so it can happen to anybody and everybody. So your time will come, I guarantee. So with that being said, I want to ask a couple more questions and then I'll let you go, Timothy. We are normally at a space where for what I call hot topics. I'm going to forego that because your story is so, and I've enjoyed our conversation and our energy back and forth. So that's just something very topical. But what I do want to talk about is something near and dear to the city. Being that we both from Maryland, I think you can understand this next question. I started a string of questions called Pop Life. This is just social media stuff or anything that's going on in pop culture. But something that struck me was there was an incident that took place in Washington, D.C. yesterday where there was a young man named Karan Blake that was gunned down. And he's 13 years old, was gunned down at 4 a.m. In Brooklyn. And I wanted to know if you've heard about it. And if so, what are your thoughts on the shooting of Karan Blake in Washington, D.C.?
I have not heard about it.
What I know, and I could be loud, if I'm erroneous, I apologize to anybody that's involved with the scenario. From what I understand is so there was a patron, someone that lives in Washington, D.C. He was sleeping in his house, heard a disturbance outside of his home, round about his vehicles. He grabbed his pistol, went out front, and saw Karan Blake there. And after a brief exchange, he wound up shooting and killing Karan Blake. Again, young man was 13 years old. It was 4 a.m. So the back and forth is: could he have done anything better? Should he have shot the young man? So forth and so on.
Is this the story where someone was allegedly breaking into cars?
Yes.
And the guy came out and he thought the guy had broken into his car.
Yes.
So he shot him.
Yes.
So even the fact that we even have to say, even if he was breaking into his car, it's like, what have we come to as a society where the first instance or instinct is to kill someone? Now look, if someone's running up in your house, I think they're fair game.
Yeah.
I think they're fair game. If they're running up into the spot,
by law, yes,
they may need to get popped. However, someone's outside, there's a lot going on. All I know is what I know for a fact, or what I read, was that the guy was 13 years old. And he 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 was 13 years old was that there was some potential carjacking or cars being broken into in the area, and the person who came out their house assumed that this person was breaking into their car. So it's very unfortunate that happened, and things like this continue to happen.
Mhm.
And it's very sad and unfortunate, and hopefully I doubt justice will prevail, but perhaps this can be a rare case in which justice prevails.
I appreciate your thought process. Um, I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence because I agree with you 1,000%. If you don't know, you don't have facts, but you brandish a pistol beyond the threshold of the door of your home. Young man gets shot. Young man was a middle schooler. It wasn't even high school yet. So that's a complete loss of life because you think you heard a disturbance, or you think the young man was breaking into your car. My mom still lives in Upper Marlboro right now.
Word. Yeah,
And she's had people pull up outside her home and try to mess with her car. Same thing with my brother. My brother had a nice looking Mustang. He's since traded it in, but he had a nice looking Mustang, and they got security footage on the ring and their security job with people getting out the car trying to tamper with the vehicle, and then they couldn't get in the car, so they left. So I'm definitely well aware of the rise in activity back in DC, the DMV area, and I get it, and I can understand how unsettling and disturbing it is. But as I agree with you and align with you in the fact that, listen, if it's outside the home, there's not much you can do. And by law, from what I understand, growing up there and leaving 8-9 years ago, unless they change the law, you cannot fire a weapon. If nobody crosses the threshold of your home, you cannot fire a weapon at them. And again, that's Maryland law. There's a difference in the Commonwealth, okay? And I'm not 100% astute on the Commonwealth laws in averse to Maryland, right? But to me, it doesn't make sense. Again, you come in my home, I'm gonna take your head off.
It's over. It's over.
Yeah, it's over. You know what I mean?
There's nothing to talk about.
Exactly.
There's nothing to talk about. There's no
Yeah.
talking. No long talk.
Yeah, but if you out lurking, who's to say you got the right person? Who you know what I mean? So, and then again, poor kid is 13 years old now. That's a loss of life, man. Like that's a tragedy in itself, regardless
Very
of if
sad.
he was wrong or not. But you leave that for the police and the law to decide.
Absolutely.
So that's my take on it, and I thank you for sharing, Timothy. Do you have any other last words on that before we move on?
No. We can go to the next one. It was a messed up situation, and I need to read more about it so that I can be more educated on exactly what may have transpired.
Yeah, and I want to leave that situation by saying, my sincerest condolences for the Bleak family, as well as, I feel bad for the young man that fired his weapon. I mean, if you feel he was in the right that he needed to protect himself in that regard, you can only imagine what he's going through as well. But with all fairness and sincerity, when we have a casualty, my heart and condolences lie with the people that lost, because they are the ones.
I hope his family gets justice.
Exactly. So with that being said, I want to ask these last couple of questions, and then we'll let you go because we are pushing up well over time. How do you feel that you paved the way for young talent?
That's a good question, because I feel like, by pursuing my truth and being a role model and a resource that anyone who knows me can reach out to me and ask me what my life experiences have been in this industry. So yeah, I mean, my cousin, he called me a few months ago and was like, hey, one of his cousins wants to model, and he was like, can you give him some game? So I called him and just told him what my experiences have been like out here and what to look out for, what not to do, because there are a lot of creeps in this industry
Yeah.
who prey on young people's desire to express themselves through their art. So I've just made myself a resource to anyone younger than me or even in my peer group who wants to know anything about my journey and what it's like to be a model or an actor in Los Angeles.
That's an amazing answer. Amazing answer.
Yeah.
You put it very succinctly, and I love that. With that being said, what advice do you have, or do you have any advice for young aspiring talent that you'd like to share?
Work hard and be kind to yourself. Just to give you perspective on my experience, last year I did over 100 auditions. And after 60, I was getting very angry with myself that I wasn't booking as many of them as I wanted to book. And at certain points, it got rather dark. So I would say that be kind to yourself and accept that you're in something that on some level everybody wants to be in. They may not admit it or not. I won't say everyone. Most people want to be in. They may not admit it or not. So I'm sure, the majority of people, regardless of what job they do, they have some desire to express themselves. And people often watch movies and say, oh yeah, I could do that. I could do that. I feel like I could do that. Oh, I could play the cashier. I'm a cashier. I could play and the thing is, they probably could, but there's a difference between feeling like you can do something and then committing yourself to doing it. So anyone that is thinking of pursuing a path in entertainment, I would say be patient and be kind to yourself, because there's going to be many days where you doubt whether or not this is where you belong, but trust that it is where you belong. And also, God is here. That's a lesson that I had to learn the hard way. I went to a Tabitha Brown event a few months ago, I want to say in August, and this was around the time where I got to them 60 auditions, and I wasn't getting many of them. I wasn't booking many of them, and I started to feel like, well, maybe God doesn't want anything to do with Hollywood. Maybe God's not interested in Hollywood. Maybe this is not a godly place to be. But going to that Tabitha Brown event really revitalized my spirit, and it reminded me that God is here. And if you keep your faith and you accept that there's only so many things you can control when you're going out for a role that you didn't create yourself, you don't control whether or not you get booked. So if you really want to have some control, you have to at some point involve yourself in the production process, whether or not that's being a producer or a writer or an executive producer, someone that's just funding projects. That's how you, unfortunately or fortunately as well, that's how you get influence, right, through producing and writing and directing. So if you want to actor like I am, and you really want to get your name out there, really create your own work, even if you think it's not top notch. Believe in yourself and put God first.
Definitely words to live by, and I definitely agree. When there is no road, build a road. You know what I mean? Like, just stop and get the resources and do it. And as difficult as it may seem, once you commit your head to it, see it through, it will be done for sure. And the last, and I always say, this is the most important question out of all of them, and I think you'll understand why. I want you to tell everybody out there, just how can people learn more about you? How can they reach out to you? How can they support you, and so forth and so on?
Yeah. So to learn more about me, you can, learn about yourself. You know, I'd say like one of the easiest paths to learn about other people is to learn about yourself and the things you like, and then you'll be able to hopefully connect with me on the things on my interests in life. But on a less metaphysical level, I would say you can follow me on Instagram, but there's really only like, you know, I use Instagram as a tool to promote my career. So it's not like I'm on there showing you what I ate for lunch or showing you a dive I took in the pool. But hopefully, you know, through my work and through the projects that I create, people, and through interviews, you know, through interviews, people would be able to get an aspect of my essence and my personality. So yeah, follow me on Instagram. My website will be up very shortly, along with a link to my fundraising page will be available very soon as well. So yeah, follow me on Instagram. I'll be showing people how they can get involved with my projects. And you know, don't be shy. Feel free to shoot me a DM. I'm very personable when it comes to that. I'm not someone that thinks they're above, you know, above interacting with friends. And what taught me that? Not what taught me that, but one of the biggest examples I've seen of that would have to be my favorite artist, Jay Electronica. I went to a show in San Francisco that he did in 2016, and he did a show, and the tickets were only $40. And he went up from 11:45 to 12 to 1 in the morning, and then at 1, everyone thought it was over, so everyone left except for 30 people. 30 people stayed. Everybody else left because they thought the show was over. Him and Dave Chappelle did improv for 2 hours and a half, from 1 o'clock in the morning to 3:30 in the morning. They did improv for 30 people, and they were amongst the people. They were not independent of the people. They were with the people, talking to the people, touching the people. So
Awesome.
yeah, and I'm not nearly on that, you know. I mean, we're all human, so we're all the same in the eyes of God, but I'm clearly not on that same level of fame and notoriety. But reach out to me, you know, if you really want to get to know me, like, you know, Timothy Harun 35, shoot me a DM and we can rap.
Well, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, we are at time. I definitely thank you, Timothy, for sharing your story, and it's an amazing story. Like I said, you have a very good gravity around you, and your energy is crazy, brother. And I wish you nothing but the best in everything that you do. I want to throw out and give a quick message to our sponsors, and then we will walk ourselves out of this thing. So stand by one moment, please. Here we go.
That's just what the fuck we do.
Breezy Beats.
Yeah, shout out to Imagine Elevation. That's my brother here, and he's doing his thing with beats and clothing and so forth and so on. And shout out to the Eights and D. Christopher Communications for putting everything together. Make sure if you guys need any kind of services, graphic design, audio, anything like that, reach out. Follow them on social media. But without further ado, we are with Timothy Harun. Timothy, listen, hey, like I said, it was a pleasure to have you on the show, and I wish you nothing but the best in all of your endeavors. Please keep in contact. If I can be of assistance, I will absolutely do that. And in worst case scenario, we can always just throw ideas at each other and so forth and so on, and see how we can keep each other stood up and moving in the right direction. Hopefully, I'm good for it. I ain't for Gaza out here. So
Nah, man. You're a man of your word. You're a man of your word for real. And in a city that gets a bad rap for disingenuous behavior, you stand out as a real stand-up man, and someone that stands on their word, and really it's about helping people in any way that you can, and sacrificing your time for the betterment of others. So Thank you so much for your time. I look forward to chopping it up with you in person. We can talk about HIU, that institute, that interesting institute. And yeah, man, it's been a pleasure, man. God bless.
Likewise, you too. Do you have any last shout outs or anything like that you want to share before we get out of here?
Shout out to my family. Shout out to God. Shout out to my partner. And shout out to you for making this happen, man. Thank you.
No problem. I appreciate you, brother. Like I said, like, follow, subscribe. Timothy Harun 35 on Insta. Make sure that you just read his story, man. Read some of his journalism, his work, his articles. I mean, you know, and everything he puts into the universe, man. He's a very adept and talented brother. Make sure that you like and subscribe and follow him, and don't just because I say so. Do it because you really truly align with him and what he's doing in the universe. With that being said, we are at time. I'm Donnie B. Got the Beats. We live on the beat. Make sure you like and subscribe and follow the beat. We have this Sunday. We have the return of Fitty the Caesar with brand new material that he's going to be sharing with the beat. Nobody's ever heard it before until Sunday. So, well, I've heard it, but that's neither here nor there. But anyway, like, subscribe, follow the beat at dbgdb on all social media across the entire World Wide Web. Without further ado, we out of here. Timothy, hang on for a sec afterwards so we can button everything up. And that's that. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, as I said before, I'm Donnie B. Got the Beats. We live on the beat, and we out. Peace.
Donnie B. Got the Beats.